Welcome. I'm here at Keller Williams in Los Gatos and with Brandon Koehne. Hi, Brandon.
Hey, how's it going?
Going well. Thank you for taking the time to do this webinar with us.
Of course.
We have 4 classes watching this webinar or the recordings of it. So let me dive right into it. So what is it that you do?
So I help people buy and sell homes. More specifically, what I really do is I go out every day and I try to find new people who want to buy and sell homes, because the process of buying or selling a home, once you get into it as a real estate agent, that's the easy part. But the hardest part is really finding the people that want to buy or sell a house, especially in the Bay Area. So that's mainly what I do, is just help people buy and sell homes. That's the surface level answer, but really, getting into it more is actually going out and finding those people.
Yeah. How many people are in the Santa Clara County area? I actually don't know what the number is.
Well, San Jose is over a million.
Yeah.
I would say probably the whole Bay Area together, probably over 2.5 million or something like that. But if we're talking Santa Clara County, it's probably more towards 2, because we have a lot of housing. We just have a lot of housing.
Yeah.
Because it goes all the way down to Gilroy.
Yeah.
So probably 2 million or so, and just in that county.
So theoretically, there are 2 million prospects out there.
Yes,
it just in the county,
yes.
Theoretically. And how do you get that sales funnel down so that you can find the right prospects to meet the service that you provide?
Yeah.
So that's the challenge.
Yeah. So it's totally a funnel at the end of the day. It all starts at the top as
the 2 million.
Everyone.
Yeah.
And then it gets to the, hey, I'm gonna have a conversation about real estate with you.
Yeah.
And then that's the next level of the funnel. And then, hey, are you interested in the next 12 to 24 months of buying or selling a house? That's the next level of the funnel. And then getting them to actually getting pre-approved for a house.
Yeah.
That's another level. And then actually meeting the people and going to see houses, another level. And then actually writing offers on houses is the next level. And then getting them to close on the house is, the ultimate last little drop of the funnel. That's where you want them to be your official clients. But yeah, it's totally a funnel.
When I was doing IT sales, so I did IT sales for 7 years, selling ERP products, things like CRMs.
Mm-hmm.
And the qualifying part is always the big one, because you want to build relationships. You're smiling at me. You want to build a relationship. So at the same time, I don't want to waste my time.
Yeah.
At what point in that sales funnel, for the sales class, we went through the sales funnel lecture. At what point in the sales process do you qualify them and say, okay, this person makes 30,000. They don't probably will. They're probably not upwardly mobile. At what point do I stop spending too much time on them?
Yeah.
When do you qualify them?
Right. And then there's the thin line of, you don't want to be that sleazy sales guy.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
So
like
you gotta walk the tightrope. You don't want to be one or the other, right?
Yes. Yeah.
But you also have to value your time, because it's the most important thing in sales and in life, really.
Yeah.
So what I do specifically is I just I get a feeler. It depends of where because a lot of the people I actually talk to are online. So a lot of the people I talk to, I don't really have phone calls with these days, because phone calls are especially people under 30. I mean, you just don't talk to them on the phone. It's all text or Instagram message. Yeah, exactly. So it's like, I just have to feel them out without even hearing their tone of voice or any of those things. But then I get into the specific questions of, hey, are you actually looking? Have you seen any properties?
That matters.
Yeah.
Are you actually looking?
Yeah. And so, because people always say, oh, hey, I'm interested. And I'm like, okay, so have you been looking at houses online? Because it's so easy to do that today. If they say no, then I'm like, okay, then these people probably aren't that interested. So that's one of them. Have you talked to a lender yet? That's a huge one, because if you're financially ready to buy a house, you're really close.
Yeah.
Most people aren't. So that's one of the big things. I'm like, hey, have you talked to a lender?
Yeah.
And then a couple other questions, just, what do they actually know about about the process? Have you learned anything about buying a house? Have you researched it on your own? Those things is when I can start to categorize, okay, they're like 2 years out, or, oh, they're more like 3 months out.
Yeah.
So that's when I categorize how much time I should be spending on each one. But being in real estate, I kind of want to keep as many people on my list as possible. So I just put the people that are further out lower on the list to contact, less frequent to contact. So that's kind of how I rank them.
So this is very similar to the case study that I had you watch, the Snack Nation case study, where there was an algorithm that they used, and they put scorecards. And you put scorecards on your prospects, because it's easy for you in your mind when you first start off and you're farming and you're prospecting and there's 10 people. Okay, these 10 people, I kind of know where they're at. What happens when that list gets to 100? It's a good problem to have. Gets to 100, gets to 200. Are you going to remember all these people? Are you going to remember? How are you going to be able to prioritize them? So even in your field, even if you are a really solopreneur, as an agent, I think, right? Would you agree? You're a solopreneur because you own your own business. You still keep a scorecard as well too.
So actually, that's funny you say that. So in our CRM, where we keep everyone's names and everything, our database, me specifically, and I've learned this from other top agents, is I give someone a score from A to D. So A is right away, within next couple months. B is kind of more like I'm soon, but not quite. C is an interesting group because it could be anyone that's thinking about it, or there's someone that in your sphere of people that might be able to refer you some people. Then D is kind of the people that, okay, I think I might need to get rid of these people because they're wasting my time. And so that's A through D. That's how I rank them. Awesome.
I'm so glad that you're able to validate that, because going through that video, this case study we watched, it was a corporation, and I'm thinking some of the people in the sales class are probably thinking, that's a corporation, I don't need a scorecard. No, if you're a solopreneur, if you're doing any type of sales, you can't manage all these dozens, hundreds of leads. You've got to rank them and organize them some way. When you sit down and talk to a client, whether it's on the buy side or the sell side, what do you do? And this is from Excel class. How do you help them understand numbers if they are not number savvy? Meaning, there are maybe, here's an example. You're talking to a client, they're interested in, say, a $2 million home, but they don't have the financial means to afford it, or they don't have the down payment. Maybe they may have the income, but their down payment is not high enough, or their loan to debt equity value is off, right? How do you explain that to them in a way that they can understand if they're not financially savvy?
Well, it helps that I'm a numbers person. So that helps, but you don't have to be a numbers person to explain someone numbers. I make it really simple. I break it down, and I like using spreadsheets. So when I make a spreadsheet, I make it super simple. And I say, hey, here's where you want to be, 2 million, right? Here's how much you have saved, right? I just put it all on the list. Here's how much you actually need to get to that $2 million house. So you're this far away. You have the income, or you're qualified every other way except for not having that down payment. So here's what you need to do. You need to save another $100,000 or whatever it is. And then just break it down super simply. And then just put all the numbers right in front of them. Don't overcomplicate it. Just make it super simple, and almost anyone can read a simple spreadsheet. We don't need to color code it, nothing crazy, right? And that always works. It always works.
Did you start off with the more complicated spreadsheet? Like when you first started doing this, did you start coloring it and italicizing, bolding, and underlining everything?
I think most people do. Because it's just, you get into a spreadsheet, you're like, oh, this is so simple and boring and plain. Let me make this so bright and colorful, and then you get into it and you're like, what does red mean? What does purple mean? And I'm like, why did I bold this? What am I doing? And so it just makes it way too complicated. And you're just going to start to forget why you did certain things. And clients, if you show clients that, they're going to be like, what is happening? This is going to be like a maze. Instead of a simple spreadsheet where it just looks like a picture and they can read it.
And you just said just recently you created a spreadsheet where one of your clients had the good fortune of having multiple offers. And what did you do to make use spreadsheets to make it easier to convey that information to that client?
Yeah, so typically we go deeper into each offer. There's like 2 or 3 is typical. We had 16 offers. Half of them were, they weren't going to make the cut.
Yeah.
But I have to present every offer.
Yeah.
So to make it easy, I said, I'm just going to put it on a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
I'm going to put the price,
Yeah.
who the agent is representing.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to put some of the terms. And for the top half, just because the contenders. And yeah, so it was super simple. And it was talking to a financial person themselves. So I just wanted to give them the numbers.
Yeah.
And so I laid it out all there for them. And the conversation was very quick because it just got straight to the point, and that's exactly what they wanted.
Yeah. Like to your point about resources being time, not just being clear and simple, but also I think reduces the friction of frustration when you are verbalizing numbers versus here it is on a spreadsheet. You can get down to the business decision quicker. Yeah,
because it could have been a 2-hour conversation.
Yeah,
I could have gone over every offer, explained all the terms and everything, but at the end of the day, it wasn't worth it. And there was a clear offer at the end of the day, so it made it really easy for me to say, hey, this is what you should do.
And I like what you said. Oh, first of all, so Brandon was kind enough to provide his spreadsheets in PDF form, so I will make that available in the Excel class for you to see how. I mean, it's just really simple, but I think that's the key there.
Yeah.
The key is not to make it too complicated. I've seen some spreadsheets where everything is underlined. I'm like, so what is important? What's not? I'm so confused.
Yeah.
And I've seen rainbows of colors on spreadsheets.
Yeah.
Some of them I created myself, and I realized like this is really confusing the user. So you want to try to get away from that.
Yeah. Yep.
So how long have you been in the industry?
It's my 6th year in the business.
So 6 years in the business. And so for the intro to business class, I know that we're doing financial markets and equities. And so when you talk about the real estate market, in the 6 years that you've been in the industry, obviously the stock market's been rising.
Yeah.
How has the real estate business, do you see any correlation between the real estate business and the stock market?
Yeah, typically they're pretty close in terms of correlation. The way they go up, the way they go down. The only exception has been COVID, because when March 2020 happened, the stock market tanked, right?
Yeah.
Real estate did the opposite. Was just the simple supply and demand though. So at the end of the day, that's why real estate went up. But if you look over historically, the stock market to real estate value correlation, it's almost identical. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm sure some of the older timers here that've been here through multiple crashes, .com bust, financial crisis. So I graduated during the .com bust, so in the late 90s. So I was there, and I didn't follow the real estate market at the time, but I remember the stock market crashing and the bubble bursting. And then you see the same movie play out in 2008. And I was on the recipient end. I bought my home in January 2007.
Oh, man.
My brother bought, so 3 years later, my brother bought a similar home in the same community across the street, a bigger house for $200,000 less. It was really painful, but it's a valuable lesson.
Yeah, it is.
I still live in that home today, so I was able to manage it and keep it. But do you think that real estate, if you're looking to stay in that home for a number of years, do you think it's a long-term game?
Yeah, 100%.
It is
100%. I say if you're gonna buy a house, and you want to build real equity in it, you're gonna want to stay at least 7 years.
At least 7 years.
Because the fees and everything that come with selling, and if you have to sell, if you're only in it less than 2 years, there's a capital gains tax, and so there's bad things if it's only less than 2 years. So definitely more than 2. But at the end of the day, if you want to make real equity, 7. That's just nationally. Bay Area is a lot different. People make 200 grand in 1 year here. And so it's a completely different market, completely different world. But for rule of thumb, 7 years. But when I tell people who are investing in real estate, which is a totally different thing, definitely at least 5 years. Because you're gonna build that appreciation, you're gonna you have that rent equity. But it's just so much easier to keep the property than to sell it and move on. But that's how people build up portfolios of real estate,
Yeah.
keeping them long term.
If you can keep it, right?
If you can keep it.
Yeah.
If it makes sense. Yeah.
I have so many friends and family members who have done really well in real estate. So I just pick their brains like crazy, just like you. And so I listened to them. So that's why I was never underwater in my home. So
That's
I
awesome.
kept it. And I'm glad I did.
Yeah. Most people didn't.
And I tell people, I don't want the real estate market to go up because it's tied to my property tax.
Yeah.
And I don't plan to ever sell my home. So
Yeah.
I'm right across the street from Santa Clara University. And
Okay. Yeah.
I've used it as a rental property before. And so I know I can get top dollars for it. I want the real estate market to go down because I want to pay less on real estate, but I just plan to just keep it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just hold it.
Yeah. So that's also another thing that people who buy in these areas, they live there 40 years and they're like, well, we don't really care if it goes up because this is our forever home.
Exactly.
And there's always the option of you can cash out refi and put money into other investments, any investment you think. But obviously I like real estate.
Yeah.
So that's always an option. I give people, you have a lot of people in this area have over $1 million in equity, and you don't necessarily need that equity if it's just sitting there. If you're going to be there forever, people might want to consider, hey, take 200, take 300, go buy a couple investment properties that are going to make you cash flow every month, and they're going to appreciate as well.
Yeah.
So there's that conversation as well, that people are lucky enough to have, that are in their homes 30, 40 years. Yeah.
Do you do the loan side too, or do you refer that?
I don't do loans. Most realtors don't. So we just work with a good amount of lenders who have different products and everything. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's probably a different webinar we can have.
It's a whole nother
you have
thing,
an option
whole
of
nother thing,
doing a HELOC, cash out refi. I mean, because that money's sitting in that house, it's not doing anything.
Exactly. So yeah, I know pretty much all the loan programs, but I don't specifically do them. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What got you? Well, let's go back. Let's retrace a little bit.
Yeah.
What got you into real estate?
Yeah. So it's a funny story. I was coming out of high school. I was considering going to college and where I should go. And I ended up going to a community college just based on the cost and what I knew my brother and sister are going to go through with student debt.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to do that. And I had no idea what I actually wanted to do. I knew business was definitely going to be my route. I just didn't know what specifically. And then I met my current girlfriend of 6 years, first semester of college.
Yeah.
And she was in real estate for over a year. And her mom has been in real estate over 40 years now. So she was like, just get your real estate license. And I was like, this young kid, ambitious, whatever. Okay, I'll go do it. And so I did it. I got it. And then I started interning for it's actually, ironically, someone who just sells land. So it's a completely different part of real estate that most people don't even talk about.
So no structure at all.
No structure, yeah. And I hated it because most land sales take about a year, which is very slow turnover. Being in sales, most sales are not that long, right? So then I got into more residential housing, and that was a lot more fun. And then ever since I joined their team after I did the internship, and ever since I've been doing residential, and I love it.
So you've been doing residential for how many years then?
So I would say 4 full years. Because the first year was intern, and then the second year I was kind of more like an assistant, kind of behind the scenes, just learning. Because I didn't want to jump full force into it without knowing what I should do.
We started this webinar about talking about the challenges of finding new prospects. And I think that's how I found you, or at least somehow we connected. I can't remember how we connected, but I believe it's through LinkedIn.
I believe so.
And I saw you on LinkedIn, and I tell everyone I have a soft heart. I have a soft spot in my heart for anyone who just tries and hustles. I don't care if they make it or not. To me, that's not relevant. But just the art, just hustling. And I just saw how young you were and how much you were hustling on LinkedIn. And that you were closing deals on these homes. And I believe that's how we connected.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
So how have you used social media? And I just recently followed you on Instagram. You got 10,000 followers on Instagram. How do you leverage social media to prospect?
So it all came from, believe it or not, Gary Vee. And I'm
Yep.
sure you've probably
Obnoxiously
followed him.
obnoxious, but very good.
Yeah, very
content.
obnoxious. But learning from him, it was 2018, I believe. And I was, I was my second year of real estate or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, he's like, start an Instagram, start a, everything, Snapchat, TikTok, whatever. Actually, I don't think TikTok was a thing then. But when TikTok came out, he's like, go on TikTok, go on TikTok.
Yeah.
I didn't do it right away. Should have, but now I am. And he's just like, build it up every day, just provide value,
Yeah,
provide
yeah,
value,
yeah.
provide value, provide value. And then you can ask for
Yes.
the sale. But until you provide enough
Jab, jab,
value,
hook.
exactly. His book. Yeah, exactly.
So that's one of his books.
Yeah, exactly. So definitely read that, being in anything sales related.
Yeah.
But provide value, and people love that stuff.
Yeah.
When I first started making videos, it's like, I have no idea what to do. Like, what's valuable? And so you just trial and error, trial and error.
Yeah.
I make a video. Did it do well? No. Okay, do something else. Okay, did it? No, it didn't do well.
Yeah.
So then you just keep going and keep going, and it's been almost 4 years now of just doing social media pretty much every day, posting.
Yeah.
I've tested, doing 3 days a week, 4 days a week, and then 7 days a week was a lot. But 5 to 6 days is kind of what I post now.
Yeah.
And how I actually leverage it is just providing value, and people just reach out to me. And then, you get, every platform's different.
Yeah.
So LinkedIn specifically, I do the same thing, same thing, provide value and everything.
Yeah.
And then I reach out to people and just say, hey, it's great connecting with you.
Mhm.
I'm not asking for anything right now.
Yeah.
But if you ever have any questions or need anything, I'm here for you.
Yep.
And I always congratulate people on their new job, or,
Yep.
So just providing value and just making
Yeah.
people feel good about themselves.
Yeah.
And if you do that over and over and over again, your people will reciprocate.
Yeah.
One thing I always heard was, you give it out in slices, it'll come back in loaves. That's
like that.
That's one of my favorite
It's
quotes
like-
I've ever heard.
I like that.
Because I give a little piece of value, a little piece of value, a little
Yeah.
piece of value, and then I get loaves back.
Yeah. Because people want to see consistency before
Yeah.
you build trust.
Yeah.
And I think, and for you, your situation, I reach out to people on LinkedIn all the time, but I have the advantage of my title being a business instructor. They're not
Right.
thinking I want anything from them.
Right.
I'm not selling them anything. But you're a salesperson.
Mhm.
You're a realtor. And it's very clear.
Yep.
And so when you reach out to people, you are at that disadvantage already. It's like, okay, now I got to
100%.
really earn this person's trust or this relationship, because they already know
Mhm.
what I do as
Yeah.
for my profession. So I can see the challenge in that.
Yeah.
But posting 4 or 5, like, do you have some type of, do you leverage any, do you outsource any of your work at all to help, like maybe editing at all, or is this all on your own?
So I tried it, like, to do more long form, to people to edit, because I hate editing videos, because I
Yeah.
did it.
Yeah.
And then once I started doing TikTok, believe it or not, just the easiness, how easy it is to edit a video in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I don't need to pay someone to do this.
Yeah.
So, and now the way Instagram is going, and most social platforms, is the Instagram Reels or the TikTok videos. Those are the best ones.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, let me just start doing way more of those.
Yeah.
I can edit them in 2 minutes, less than that sometimes. And I was like, I don't need to waste money on
Yeah.
something I can do myself. But
Yeah.
I do agree in leveraging things you aren't good at.
Yeah.
Especially if they're time consuming. Like, I hate doing any of the mailings or any of that stuff. I don't do that stuff, because I'm not good at it. I know I'm not good at it. So that's why I pay someone else to do it.
Yeah.
And I can have time to, prospect more.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm good at. So
I'm glad you brought that up. I know this is not an entrepreneurship class, but I got to bring it back for my entrepreneurship class. But it goes to the heart of what, and this is not a Gary Vee webinar, but it goes to the heart of what Gary Vee talks about, is understanding yourself, right?
Yeah.
Having that self-awareness. Look, you can't be good at everything.
Yeah.
You're not good at everything. Like right now, I'm trying to start a business with one of my friends in the metaverse. And I'm not good at writing. I'm not a writer. I can speak, but I'm not good at writing. White paper, like, dude, that's you. He says, I don't want to do it either. Okay, we're paying somebody, because we know what we're good at, and we know what we're not good at. So how do you know what you're good at and what you're not good at when you start off? Because you talk about you're very comfortable with numbers. How do you know what you should outsource and what you should keep?
Yeah. It does come all down to self-awareness, like
Yeah.
you were saying. But I think how you get to that point is just trial and error.
Yeah.
Trial and
Totally.
error. Just keep doing it. And I think anything in business or sales or anything is trial and error.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to fail. You just have to keep failing.
Yeah.
And once you fail multiple times, you get that yes. And
Yeah.
then you get the other yes. And then you're like, okay, then I should keep doing those things that lead me to the yes.
Yeah.
And that's just how you learn. You just learn so much about yourself by just trying and doing things.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think that's really the main way. Just keep trying things, and you figure out, okay, I'm not that good at this.
Yeah.
So I figured out, okay, I'm pretty good at talking to people. I'm pretty good at prospecting. Pretty good at closing a homes. When it comes to doing the paperwork and everything, I hate doing that because it's so time consuming, and so it's just not me.
Yeah.
When it comes to the marketing side, I like the ideas of it, but doing the actual mailings and creating them, I'm not good at that. So I don't do that.
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff, you kind of learn whether you're creative or you're not a creative.
Yeah.
Whether you're the numbers person or you're not.
Yeah.
Whether you like using spreadsheets or not.
Yeah.
You kind of figure out what you're good at, but you don't know until you try.
Yeah. And I like how you emphasize that. And I know it sounds so cliche. You don't know until you try. But there's a lot of people out there. There's some students that I've had in the past, and I still have, where they contemplate and they sit on their couch and think about all these, and they're great thinkers. Yeah. Look, sales, especially business, especially, it's not about, it's thinking, yes, but you got to go out there and do it.
Action.
It's action, yeah. Can I drop a quote on you?
Yeah.
Like Sarah Blakely, I think she said this quote. I'm probably butchering it, but she says she's the Spanx former CEO, sold Spanx for like $1 billion, something like that.
Yeah.
And she says that failure is not the opposite of success. Failure is part of success.
100%.
So to be successful, you have to fail. If you're not failing, that means you're not going to be successful.
I'll give you an example. Beginning of this year, we're coming off 2020, which was, we were really scared in real estate when it happened. We're like, how are we gonna sell a house?
I know.
Seeing a house, right?
Yeah.
So going through the year, it was a good year, but it wasn't like the best. And so during the end of the year, sales kind of fell off for me, and I'm like, going into the new year, I had the worst transaction I've ever been in. People lost money. We didn't close. It was really bad. So I was having, the worst, part of my career at that point, beginning of January of this year. Fast forward to today, I've had my best year yet.
Nice.
I've had many, accomplishments and goals reached and awards. Sold my first house over $2 million. So nice. I mean, just, but that brings me back to, you gotta know what you're doing wrong.
Yeah.
Self-awareness, right? You gotta know, you just have to keep trying. And so that transaction, I learned so much about myself, so much about what to do and what not to do. And as terrible as it was, it propelled me into this year of, 4Xing my business. Yeah.
Nice.
So
from 2020.
Yeah. Nice. So it was just a mindset shift, and everything. So it's just, that's a quick example that I can share.
So I'm so glad that you went into detail about failing. I'm not saying fail and just keep failing. Don't fail and make the same mistakes.
Yeah, exactly.
It's called failing forward, right? So you fail, don't do that mistake again. If you keep failing, you keep doing the same mistake, then you're not learning. The whole point of the whole idea of failing is you're failing and learning, not failing to repeat the same mistakes, right? So I just want to clarify that.
Yeah, you have to learn from it. You have to identify what was wrong, and what you can learn from it and how to move forward.
Yeah. So I don't want an email 2 years from now, I failed calculus 20 times, I'm not successful yet. It's like, no, that's not the type of failing we're talking about.
Yeah.
I want to go down this rabbit hole a little bit. You talked about selling your first $2 million home. That's impressive.
Yeah.
Very impressive.
Yeah.
How do you build trust in someone, and you're a young man? How do you build trust with someone to help you I mean, it's probably the most valuable asset they have, I assume.
Yes.
Or if not, right? So to help you sell a $2 million home?
So the funny story, well, with these people specifically, I actually met them 3 years ago. And it was just providing value over and over again.
Can you give me some examples?
Yeah. So
How did you provide
when I
value to
first
them?
met them, the only reason they actually called me is because I sent out a postcard that said, hey, if you're ever working on your house or you need anyone to help work on your house, any contractors, we have a great list of people that we've tried out, and we can refer you someone.
Yeah.
And so she called me and she said, oh yeah, I'm looking to do this and that. Can you come over and give me an idea of what we can do? This was 3 years ago. And so, I went over there and said, helped her out with that. And no expectations of her selling her house.
Oh.
They were planning on living there and everything. I was just helping them
Yep.
get a contractor in. Fast forward a year later, they're like, okay, we're thinking about renting it out. What do you think? Can you come over and help us, like, give us an idea of what we need to do to rent this property out to, I don't do rentals. So I can give them an idea of, what they should do, paint and everything, but I can't be a property manager because that's not what I do.
Yeah.
But I said, hey, this is an opportunity where I can provide more value.
Yeah.
So I went over and said, hey, you should paint this. You got to put smoke detectors in, certain things that are up to code,
Yep.
you have to follow. So we did all those things.
Pro bono.
Yeah.
Right now, no money exchanged.
Yeah.
Nothing
No,
like that.
no. And they're not, like I said, they're not trying to sell their house, they're trying to rent it. And then right before they wanted to rent it, COVID happened. And we all know what happened with that. So
Yeah.
they didn't rent it out. They just stayed there. And about 3 months ago, they called me and they said, hey, we're going to sell it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so actually, it was literally the house I sold last night.
Nice.
So with the 16 offers.
Yeah.
So it was it's just a crazy experience to go from that one postcard where you're just providing value to constantly and I was always staying in touch with them. Hey, if you guys ever need anything, let me know. I'm in the area. That obviously constant contact,
Constant contact,
you always want to stay in touch with someone who you provide value to before, because they want to know that you're staying consistent and you're actually continuing to provide value. So that's what I did, and 3 years of hard work paid off.
And would you consider on that lead score they would be like a B at that point before they signed up, before they said, hey, we're thinking about selling, but up to that point they're like a B?
Especially since they were someone in a higher value area, because your time is valuable, right? So you want to base it off of how much time you're spending for what you'll get compensated for. So they're definitely higher on the list. Also, they're in the area that I mainly send postcards to, so my farm. And so they were definitely higher up on the list.
Wow, I'm glad that bear fruit, and I'm sure if you stay in this industry long enough, you'll have tons of stories like this,
exactly.
right? Like, oh, I met someone at the Safeway, and we were just chatting, and next thing you know, we exchanged contacts, and next thing you know, you're selling, one of their properties.
Yeah, actually, another funny story. Just going back to social media and everything. We bought a rental property in Texas.
Okay.
And I just posted on Instagram saying, hey, look, we bought a house in Texas, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
It was one of my best posts I've ever had in terms of engagement.
Yeah.
Because people love that stuff. They love it. Anything, if you're ever looking to do social media, anything you can do to celebrate, or birthday, anniversary, buying a house, any of those things do amazing. So focus on those if you do social media. But someone reached out to me in the area, and they're like, hey, I saw you bought a house in Texas. I'm looking to buy, investment property in San Jose up to like $1 million. I'm also looking to buy a primary up to $2 million.
Yeah,
I'm like,
I can help you with that.
Wow, you come to the right place. But just off of one post. And so I think they've seen my, the value I provided over the years of been connected with me. And then that one post just clicked with them.
Nice. Wow, that's a lot to take in. That's a powerful
so potentially
story.
$3 million in sales just off a post.
That's and I know that you use the word provide value. I use similar words, but I use a huge theme in the class, in the sales class, is solving other people's problems.
Yes.
Right. It's solving, when you say provide value is very similar. I think it's just, it's just linguistics.
Well, let me go
whatever.
back to what I do for a living. I solve problems for a living.
Yeah, I mean, it is like, if you're trying to rent a house and you don't know how to rent the house, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Okay, well, this prospect asked you, well, how can I rent this house? I don't know how, I don't know who to talk to remodel my house. That's a problem. Let me solve that for you. I have a list of contracts for use.
Yeah, whoever becomes the best problem solver will be the best person in sales.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. And we talked about that briefly in the class. We talked about how, you get compensated for the size of the problems you solve. I think
Yeah.
Elon talked about
Yeah.
that. He's trying to get us to go to Mars, and
Yeah.
it just so happens to be that's the richest person in the world.
Yeah. Yep.
So constantly trying to solve other people's problems, trying to find what their problems are, what's important to them. And then I like your sales approach of that. Sales is not always so direct. It can be indirect. I have a friend who does 7 figures for many years now in loans. And his technique was, he didn't try to work with agents to work, because typically that's what you do, right? Work with agents.
Yeah.
Hey, someone's buying a house, go through me. You know what he did? And I'll have him be a guest speaker in another class. Unfortunately, I couldn't get him this time around. He reached out to CPAs and lawyers because he's thinking that those clients of the CPAs and lawyers, they trust their advice. So he would basically get referrals from them, from CPAs and lawyers. If your CPA said, hey, you should go get a loan from this guy, would you listen?
Yeah.
If your lawyer tells you, hey, you should get a loan from this guy, would you listen?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's an indirect way of doing sales.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, referrals is a huge section of sales that a lot of people don't think about, because they just, what's the next sale? What's the next sale? What's the next sale? Instead of nurturing the people you already know and saying, hey, if you might know someone, and that can be anyone, like you said, it could be, people, it could be your barber, it could be anyone. Obviously you probably want it to be people who talk to more people, like a lawyer or a CPA. That's a wider net of people. But people you trust. And just say, hey, if you ever know anyone, let me know. I'd love to help them out. But yeah, referrals is a huge piece of any sales.
In this world of fake news, and we're being overwhelmed with information, cred is huge.
Oh yeah, word of mouth. Yeah,
it's credibility, and not just from you, but credibility from the person that's offering, that's sending the referral over. How do you incentivize people to help you in that way? When you say talk to your barber, hey, anyone's looking to buy a home, why would I help you, Brandon? Like, what's in it for me?
Yeah, that's a good question. Because people, you always want to provide value to someone to where they don't expect something in return. You're already providing that value. But there's a lot of different ways to do it. Some agents do like, hey, I'll give you a Starbucks gift card if you refer me. So you can do it monetary. You can be, I've had agents who they do some sort of club. So where you literally you get these certain things if you refer me this amount of people. So that's another monetary one. Or you can come to, we can go to a baseball game or something along those lines. What I do specifically is I kind of just stay close with my people, and I just, I take them out to lunch, I take them out to coffee, dinner, drinks, whatever. And that's my value to them, is just, spending time with them, quality time with them, and just being real. And just, if they actually do need anything, I'm providing that value for them. And just staying top of mind on so, you don't want to just, see someone and then a year later be like, hey, do you know anyone that wants to buy or sell a house? You want to, and you actually want to hang out with your friends anyway, right? Don't just hang out with them just because you want something from them. Because they'll be able to tell. So if you're trying to do that with certain people, just don't even hang out with them, because they're already not going to send you business. So people you like and trust, and hopefully they like and trust you, because at the end of the day, if they do, they'll definitely refer you to someone.
And it sounds like to me, real estate, whether you are an owner of real estate or whether you're looking to be a sales professional in real estate, it's a long game. You just gave an example of the sales cycle for your biggest sale. I mean, that was a 3-year sales cycle there. And some sales, I mean, the longer you stay in this industry, it might even be longer than that.
I've had, I literally met someone online, and 2 months later, we close on the house.
Yeah.
So that's really fast for real estate
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's a month to close once you get into
It's like all
contract.
cash offer or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but typically it's when you meet someone, it's 6 to 12 months typically,
Yeah.
because you got to go through the getting approved, looking at houses, writing
Yeah.
offers, and then you finally get one.
Mm.
But sometimes it's really short, and so that's been the longest one.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely an interesting sales cycle for sure.
Yeah. Have you been in situations where you've had to deal with difficult clients, and have you been in a situation where you actually have to fire clients?
Yes.
You have.
Yeah.
And that's hard, right? I mean, it's hard to, you just talked about,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but you just talked about how hard it is to find prospects, and to finally have a client, it's got to be really bad for them to say, I just can't work with you.
Yeah. You have to value yourself.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you have to understand, you have to do what's best for you.
Yeah.
As much as you want to do everything and anything possible to help someone,
Yeah.
if it's just not going to work out and you can tell, then there's no point of spending any more time, because at the end of the day, it's the time that anyone wants, right?
Yeah.
You can have all the money in the world, but time's limited.
Yeah.
So you got to focus on, are these people actually going to do what they're saying they're going to do?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I've had situations where I had to, unfortunately say, hey, I can't help you anymore.
Yeah.
I can refer you to someone else, but I have to focus on other things right now.
Yeah.
And it's not an easy conversation to have,
No.
because they're like, what's wrong with us?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh no, it's nothing, there's nothing wrong with you. I personally have to go do other things.
Mhm.
Even though it's obviously them.
Yes. Maybe not obvious to
but-
them, apparently.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, the customer's always right in
Yeah.
sales.
Yep.
So you cannot ever put the blame on them.
Yeah.
So it's tough though. It is tough.
Yeah. If you have pride and you have ego, this might not be the best. This may not be the best field for you. You have to put some of
Yep.
that stuff aside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of egotistical people in sales for sure.
Yeah.
And they're usually the most direct. They're usually the ones that don't last very long.
Yeah.
But you can make money doing it, being egotistical, and then usually are that one person that no one wants to work with.
Yeah. Yeah. But you're not going to be as successful as you could be, right?
Exactly.
So how long do you think it'll be in this game? Do you think this is like we talk about forever homes, this is like a forever career? Do you think this is something, because the reason why I asked that is because some people I know do real estate on the side, and they have their other jobs and other professions.
Yeah.
Even though the ones that are really doing real estate say you can't really do it. It's a full-time job. You
Yeah.
really got to be immersed in it.
Yeah. So plan is, as of right now, is building out the team to having multiple buyers agents, multiple seller agents, transaction coordinators, other people behind the scenes.
Yeah.
That way I can kind of step back as the owner.
Yeah.
And just say, hey, I run this.
Yeah.
But I'm not, I'm not the CEO. I'm not the seller's agent. I'm not the buyer's agent. I just have the systems in place that work.
Yeah.
And that's what I will build it up to eventually. And then I'll go off and do other businesses.
Yeah.
But I think, so real estate, for sure, as long as possible, because you don't really ever need to retire from it.
Yeah.
But I also want to start businesses that are related to real estate, like a
Yeah.
roofing business or a cleaning business,
Yeah.
something to where I can provide even more value to
Yeah.
my regular business.
Mhm.
Because I can give discounts for that business to give back to the
Mhm.
clients who are selling their house.
Mhm.
So just having that, bundle of, real estate products, but also I want to branch out into other fields
Yeah.
as well, just because I don't want to be all in one.
Yeah.
Just like investing, you don't want to be all in just one field.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely have other plans to start other businesses, and
Mhm.
because I'm an entrepreneur at heart, so
Yeah.
it's I like building things, so it's fun for me.
And when you talk about a team, I think the one thing I wanted to ask you too, when you build a team, the key component of that team has got to be your brand, right? Because you're just another company, but the brand of
100%.
Brandon, oh, we trust him, even though we're not dealing with him, you're working with him.
Yeah.
I have a number of students in the sales class that are getting their real estate license. You're with Keller Williams. Why did you choose this broker particularly? Because there's so many brokers to choose from.
Yeah, there's a lot, and they all want you, and they all make money off of you, so they're all going to tell you all the same thing. Specifically, the reason I chose them was because of how much training they do for new agents.
Yeah.
And so they have all these free classes, and specifically in this area, there's a lot of higher end agents,
Yeah.
just because of how the houses are. But you get to learn so much from people who make 7 figures a year
Yeah.
for free. I mean, how many opportunities do you have to do that? So I literally, you go to these classes and the top agents teach them, and they say, hey, this is how I run my business.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, gosh, let me soak this up. So that's why specifically I chose Keller Williams. There's also, a capping model and different things that most brokerages have. But I like the people here. I like the broker, number one.
Yeah.
And then of course, just the learning mentality they have.
Yeah.
So that really drew me to them.
And then you also talked about through your career, you talked about your girlfriend's mom, who's
Mhm.
been in the industry for 40 plus years. Were you mentored through this whole process in this career?
Yeah. So she was the way she mentored me, and I'm really appreciative is she didn't give me any leads. She didn't give me business. There was one time where she helped me out with a client, but she taught me how to fish, she didn't give me the fish.
Yeah, I like
So
that.
I was like, as much as I was like, I'm not making that much money, I need it. Like, can you just like
Throw
give
me a fish.
Yeah, like throw me fish, right? And so give me a couple, right? Because you look at what they're doing, you're like, oh my gosh, look how much they're selling.
Yeah.
It's like you can't just give me
Give me some
one, right?
crumbs, yeah.
So but that's being the mindset that was, that's not gonna make you a lot of money.
Yeah.
The mindset of growth and learning how to fish and learning how to go get your own clients I'm so grateful for today, because if I didn't learn that, I don't think I'd still be doing this.
Yeah.
Because if I was just handed the business, I wouldn't be able to prospect today.
Yeah.
So yeah, she mentored me through it. She taught me, personal growth and development is really what, we need to do as salespeople, because no one's going to tell you to, hey, wake up at 6.
I know.
Hey, you need to go to the gym. Hey, you need to eat right. Hey, you need to make your phone calls. Hey, you need to follow up.
Yeah.
Hey, you need to go out and work on the weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's 7 o'clock at night. Hey, you still need to work.
Yeah.
No one's going to tell you that, because
Yeah.
you don't have a boss. You're your own boss, pretty much.
Yeah.
So that's personal growth and development, that just over and over, podcasts, books, classes,
Yeah.
just learning what other successful people have done, and just doing what they do.
Yeah.
And so that's what changed for me. I mean, I used to wake up at 9 or 10 o'clock every day being in college. And then I started waking up at 6. I got my workout in the morning, started to eat a lot healthier. Everything changes when you focus on your mindset at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's really powerful. I was asked in a webinar, and someone asked me, and I was the guest, and they asked me, what do you think students should study if they want to get into sales? And I, without hesitation, I wasn't even prepared for the question, but without hesitation, my first thing was understand people.
Yeah.
It's not even about your degree. If you guys don't already know, if you guys didn't read my bio yet, I have a bachelor's degree in biology, and I'm teaching you guys sales and Excel spreadsheets. So, ultimately what matters is get that piece of paper. You got to play the game. I get it. That's the world we live in. But ultimately, it's self-education is huge, right? In sales, 100%. Especially. You can't get a sales degree at CSU or UC or any of the four-year universities, but without sales, there is no business.
Right. Yeah. The world runs on sales. Every single day there's a transaction, thousands of millions of transactions done.
Yeah.
Also, every single day you're negotiating something.
Yeah.
Every single day.
Yeah.
Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference.
Never Split a Difference.
100% must read.
Yeah.
100%.
We read the same books, my friend. I just told him to read that book last week.
Okay, there you go. I mean, perfect timing. But every single day you're negotiating something.
Yeah.
If there's an I want or anything along those lines, you're negotiating.
Yeah.
And so it will come into your relationships with anyone, really. Yeah. And so it's something you definitely want to master, because it's going to help you being a better person. Yeah. Better salesperson. So that really helps as well.
and I'm so super biased about business and specifically sales, is I feel that, to your point where you're talking about mindset, I feel like being a good salesperson makes me a better person.
Mhm.
It crosses the line from professional over to your personal
Yeah.
life, because now you're more disciplined.
Yeah.
First of all, your communication has to be super strong. Of course, that's going to be helpful in your personal relationships too, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. We probably get made fun of quite a bit because the salespeople are, oh, I wake up early, I work out, I have this great diet, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah. Look how great I am. Because a lot of people do post like, oh, look how much money I make and all this stuff. But at the end of the day, I've met so many amazing salespeople and people in business.
Yeah.
Social media has totally distorted
Yeah.
the way we are.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, my life has completely changed
Yeah.
from being okay to I feel amazing now.
Yeah.
And so that's all mindset. It's all, just learning about yourself and
Yeah.
just putting things to action.
I want to wrap up the webinar with this one last question. And this is a question I ask all professionally successful people. And the reason why I ask this question is because I think a lot of times when you see guests that come on the webinar and they talk about their successes, they don't talk about their sacrifices. And I think that is huge. I mean, the missed vacations, the missed opportunities hanging out with your boys if they're going out for a golf weekend, all this. Are there some sacrifices that you've made that you think that is more memorable than others? And can you describe that?
Oh yeah. So, I mean, going into real estate at 18, 19, I completely didn't have a college experience at all.
Yeah.
So I don't even know what a college party's like and none of that. I mean,
Fraternity life,
I hear all that from my
on
friends
dorms,
and everything.
cake parties.
I mean, most weekends I'm working. So I don't go out and drink and hang. I don't do all that stuff because I don't have time to.
Yeah.
So I definitely have sacrificed the lifestyle of something that most young 20-year-olds would do.
Yeah.
And I think about it, every so often, I'm like, is it worth it?
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's so worth it.
Yeah.
It's so worth it.
Yeah.
If I was doing what, most people are doing in their young 20s, I wouldn't have any knowledge or any equity or any, business ideas. Nothing I'm living right now would be possible.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I sacrificed, staying up late. I woke up at 6 almost every single day for a very long time. That's a sacrifice in itself, just getting up at 6 o'clock,
especially on
or
cold
5
days
o'clock,
like this,
whatever. Yeah, whatever. And it's dark out, and you're like, why am I up?
No one else is.
Going to the gym at 6:30 and everything. It's
Yeah.
like, you don't want to, but you have to do it.
Yeah.
But daily sacrifice. Yeah.
Yeah. That's really important, especially in real estate. I mean, you're pretty much sacrificing the weekends, right? And you're at the mercy of the client.
Yeah.
The friend that I told you, I have actually a couple friends that make 7 figures in home loans. And the friend that I just talked about that makes 7 figures, he everyone thinks, oh my God, it's great. He has no processor. He does everything himself. He's got trust issues. So can you imagine turning that many contracts and you're doing all the B work yourself?
Wow.
He tells me 18, 17 hours a day, 7 days a week. Just wakes up, showers, sleeps, and that's all he does.
I believe it.
I'm like, why don't you hire someone? I've tried, I don't trust them. They mess it up. I just do it myself. Yeah. Well,
that's a whole nother story. The trust issue.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the one thing in sales though is you could, at the end of the day, you do want to leverage your time.
Absolutely.
So you want to build a team to where you can say, hey,
Totally.
you do this, do what I'm not good at.
Totally.
You do what I'm not good at, and then build that up, and then you can go do other things.
Yeah. I would agree with that, but I'm not going to disagree with someone who makes 7 figures.
No,
you do what works for you.
If it
you know
works
what I
for
mean?
him, 100% do it. Yeah.
But yeah, and he's mid 30s, and he's been pulling 7 figures. That's actually how I met him.
That's awesome.
So I met him because we have the same CPA.
Yeah.
And then so that's how the CPA goes. Well, I don't know what this guy is doing, but I do his I do his taxes, and you saying you need to refi. You should go talk to this guy. And that's how I met him. We became friends. He did my first refi 10 plus years ago.
Yeah.
And I got to understand him a little bit more in his business, and
that's another example of how you can do sales in so many different ways.
Yeah.
Right. So whatever works for you,
Yeah.
and that's what you have to do. You have to do trial and error until you
Yeah.
figure out, okay, this is what works for me. I'm going to
Yeah.
be the one person, or hey, I'm going to be the person that steps back,
Yeah.
or you're going to be in between.
Yeah.
So there's so many different, opportunities in business.
Yeah. Think outside the box. Our very first person on the webinar was Kelly, and Kelly got hired through my friend Jim at the VW dealership. And Jim got into car sales. He was a computer science major, computer science degree. He got a degree in computer science at San Jose State. The reason why he got so successful in sales is because Craigslist was just new, and he started posting on Craigslist when it was free.
Yeah.
And nobody was posting on Craigslist, and he
Wow.
was the internet. No one's even really selling cars on Craigslist from the dealership side. They had like cars.com and all this,
Right.
but he was the first one, and that was like 20 plus something
So
years
smart.
ago. And so think outside the box,
Yeah.
right? Think outside the box. Don't follow the herd in sales. Easy to follow the
100%.
herd. Think outside the box. Be creative.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome, Brandon. Thank you so much.
Of course.
I really appreciate your time and
Thanks for having me.
and all the wisdom that you've
Of
given.
course. Anytime.
If you don't mind, I shared your Instagram and I shared your LinkedIn as well, so
Okay.
you may get some ads.
Okay. Awesome.
From all my
Yeah.
students.
Yeah. I'd be happy to talk to anyone if you have any questions or anything. Be happy to talk.
Thank you so much. And that's the beauty of, I think, this webinar, guys, is that, people self-select themselves to be on these webinars. So use them appropriately as professional contacts. That's how you build your network.
Yep.
Right.
100%,
Because
yeah.
so many students think, oh my God, I'm just a student. What can I offer? I never had a job. I don't know what to offer.
Yeah.
Start at the very minimum, start adding all the guest speakers on the webinars, at least through your LinkedIn.
Yeah. Add any value you can.
Yeah. Solve people problem, add value. Any way you say it, it's really the same idea of just being helpful to people.
Yep. 100%.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Appreciate
Of
it.
course. Thanks for having me.
All right.